Hello, my name is Joshua Mugabi. I welcome you to Biology Lights. And in this session, we are going to talk about variation. What are the two main causes of heritable variation? The two main causes of heritable variation are mutations and the recombinations. Classify the following variations as either 1. Caused entirely by genetic effects, or 2. Caused by a combination of genetic and environmental effects. Obesity, eye color, tallness, ability to sing, maleness, masculinity, blood group, natural hair color, sickle-cell anemia, guinea. Entirely genetic, we have eye color, maleness, blood group, natural hair color, sickle-cell anemia. Environmental and genetic, obesity, tallness, ability to sing, masculinity, and agility. Alleles are genes which occupy corresponding position on dash chromosomes. They control the same dash, but not necessarily in the same way. Alleles are genes which occupy corresponding positions on homologous chromosomes. They control the same characteristic, but not necessarily in the same way. What new combinations of characteristics might arise in the offspring when a tall plant with white flowers is crossed with a dwarf plant of the same species with red flowers? New combinations would be tall plants with red flowers or dwarf plants with white flowers. What selective advantage might either of the new varieties have? Tall, red-flowered plants might attract more insects for pollination. The genotypes of two guinea pigs for two characteristics are represented as capital A, capital A, capital B, capital B, and small a, small b, small b. These guinea pigs are mated, and their offsprings eventually mate with each other. A. What genotypes could emerge in the second generation? The possible genotypes in the F2 are capital A, capital A, capital B, capital B, small a, small b, small b, capital A, small a, capital B, capital B, capital A, capital A, capital B, small b, small a, capital B, small b, capital A, capital B, small b, capital A, small b, small b, small a, capital B, capital B, capital A, small b, small b. The possible genotypes in the F2 are capital A, capital A, capital B, small a, small b, capital A, capital B, capital A, capital B, small b, small a, capital B, small b, capital A, capital B, small b, capital A, small b, small b, small a, capital B, capital A, small b, small b. Which of these would be phenotypically different? That is, be different in appearance from the original pair. Phenotypes different from the original pair are small a, capital B, small b, capital A, small b, small a, capital B, capital A, small b, small b. Suppose that there are 6 pairs of alleles which control height, and that each dominant allele adds 5 centimeters to the stature. Suppose also that the average height of an adult with equal numbers of recessive and dominant alleles is 160 centimeters. Part A. What is, number 1, the tallest? Number 2, the shortest person you would expect from this pattern? Part 1. The shortest person will therefore lack the dominant alleles and be 30 centimeters, that is 6 times 5, shorter than the average, which is 130 centimeters. Part 2. The tallest person will have an addition of 6 dominant alleles and therefore be 30 centimeters taller than the average, that is 190 centimeters. Part B. On this basis, what would be the minimal difference in height between any 2 people? if stature were controlled solely by genes, the minimal difference between individuals would be 5 centimeters. Part C. Why is this minimal difference unlikely to be observed in reality? Since height is also influenced by nutrition and health, it is very unlikely that people would differ by exactly 5 centimeters. The histogram shows the range and frequency of occurrence of particular blood pressures, that is systolic, in a group of women in the 30 to 39 age group. Part A. On this evidence, could you say that the blood pressure is a discontinuous variable? Part B. Justify your answer. The blood pressure seems to differ by distinct steps, discontinuous variation. But this is because women have been arbitrarily placed in groups whose blood pressure differ by 10 units. If they had been put into groups differing by only 1 unit, the steps would have virtually disappeared. This is continuous variation. Give 2 examples of continuous variation in human populations. Continuous variation, for example, weight, height, intelligence, hair color, skin color, physique, blood pressure. Give 2 examples of discontinuous variation in human population. Discontinuous variation, blood group, sex, eye color, presence or absence of certain genetic diseases, for example, albinism and hemophilia, free or attached earlobes. Which one of the following statements is the least accurate? A. Discontinuous variation results entirely from genetic differences. B. Continuous variation can result from genetic differences. C. Discontinuous variation cannot be altered by environmental effects. D. Continuous variation results from environmental effects. The least accurate statement is D. Continuous variation can be homogenetic. For example, hair color. O results from a combination of genetic and environmental effects. For example, skin color. Explain why identical twins will have the same genotype. Identical twins are derived from the same fertilized ovum, or what we call a zygote, and will therefore have the same sets of chromosomes and genes. When a dash and a dash put forward the theory of natural selection in 1858, they observed that there are dash between the individual of a species. They also observed that organisms produce more offsprings than can possibly dash to maturity. Fill in the missing words. When Darwin and Wallace put forward the theory of natural selection in 1858, they observed that there are variation or differences between the individuals of a species. They also observed that organisms produce more offspring than can possibly survive or live to maturity. If the dash are inherited and give the individual an advantage over the other members of the species, they will live dash, and so leave more offsprings with the same beneficial dash. Fill in the missing words. If the variations or differences are inherited and give the individuals an advantage over the other members of the species, they will live longer and so leave more offspring with the beneficial variation stroke differences. For the beneficial variation to have a selective advantage in the course of evolution, it must be dashed by the offspring. For a beneficial variation to have a selective advantage in the course of evolution, it must be inherited by the offspring. Evolution is thought to come about as a result of dash, which produce new dash. This gradually replaced the original population as a result of dash. Fill in the missing words. Evolution is thought to come about as a result of mutation, which produce new varieties. This gradually replaced the original population as a result of natural selection. Which of the following statements is the most acceptable from an evolutionary point of view? A. Apes and humans have evolved from a common ancestor. B. Humans have evolved from apes. C. Certain apes have gradually evolved into humans. D. Apes and humans are related. The most acceptable statement is A. Statement B and C imply a direct line of evolution from existing apes or to humans. Statement D is too vague to have much significance. What characteristics might a breeder select for in a cereal crop? In a cereal variety, a breeder might select for high yield, disease, frost, or drought resistance, area maturity, reduced need for fertilizers, good quality of product, and processing quality. What characteristics might a breeder select for in a farm animal? In a farm animal, a breeder might select for high yield, for wool, milk, and meat, good meat-fat ratio, disease resistance, fertility, that is, more offspring. Hello friends, thank you very much for attending to Biology Lights. I encourage you to subscribe.